Hey y'all, what's up? My name is Dr. Mandy Caroy, and I am a professional academic editor and researcher, and you're listening to Dr. Mandy Unedited. I don't know, I think maybe I should get like a theme song or something. I used to be a professional singer back in the day, so maybe I could sing myself a jingle. Who knows? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed last week. We talked about the first part of our literature review series, which is about how to plan for a literature review, write it, how to search databases, some tools to help you do that along with reading, and then how to write a good comprehensive outline for our literature review. So, if that sounds interesting to you, go back and check that episode out. And then, of course, next week we're going to be talking about like the actual writing part of the literature review, and talking a little bit about how to what to be included in each section of your literature review, but also how to just synthesize and critically analyze the material that you're going to be writing about. But today we're going to talk about the one time I wanted to quit my PhD program and why that became a huge life lesson for me. All right, a little set the scene, okay? I was pretty early on in my PhD journey, and I also had just received a promotion at work. So I used to be a teacher, and for the school that I was working for, I was promoted to assistant director. At the time, it was pretty stressful, I'm not gonna lie, because I think that my former boss, look, I love her. If she ever listens to this, I love you, okay? No, no shade, but I think that, once she promoted me to this position, she was just, testing to see if I had the chops, if I had what it takes to, like, get stuff done. And I was also, trying to prove my worth as well. So at this point, we opened a couple of new campuses for our school. I was working on training new teachers. I also really wanted to really refine the curriculum, and it was just a lot. So I was traveling back and forth between campuses all the time as well. And as I've previously mentioned, like in my PhD program, I was kind of on a high, because previously in my life, I've always kind of felt that I was not that smart. Once I really found my stride in my PhD program and found that I was being pretty successful in it, I kind of like developed this really high standard for myself. So that's a lot to, juggle between like the work and the school and all that. I had a teacher who unfortunately just was not performing to the standard that, my boss and I wanted them to. We started to get a lot of complaints from other teachers and parents in that effect, where, we were hearing that this one teacher kind of maybe embarrassed or shamed some kids. And yeah, so my boss and I, we went through all of the general kind of things that you go through at that point. You discuss it with them, you observe them, you try to work with them to improve this behavior. However, it was towards the end of a week where we just so happened, my boss called me and she was like, okay, look, I have gotten three complaints from three different parents about this teacher, saying some horrible things to the kids. And so my boss was like, enjoy your weekend because on Monday you're going to fire her. And like I said, I think I took this as, yeah, like she was seeing, if I had the guts to do it and handle it professionally and overall take care of business. So the day came, my boss was there with me and I fired the teacher. It was horrible. It was awkward. I've had to do it a few times since then. And it's like the worst part is just, having to watch them pack up their room and leave immediately. And it also kind of sucks, just thinking about how you're in charge of someone's livelihood in that respect where, like you have the authority to kind of end that means of an income for someone. So it just really wasn't a good day. At the same time, we just so happened to have another teacher have a medical emergency, which means they weren't able to come back for the rest of the school year. And this was like towards the end of the school year anyway. So that meant that we were likely not able to fill those two teacher positions for the rest of the year. And we were also going to have to work out how we were going to get around not having two teachers at a small, private school. So where my stress level was like already really, really high, within a matter of days, it was just like skyrocketed. Of course, I've got my schoolwork to focus on as well. So I turned in my schoolwork as I normally did, probably like on a Saturday or Sunday. And then by like the midweek of the next week, I got my grade back and it was a C minus. Like, I know it sounds like first world problems, but like I had become such a perfectionist in getting, my work perfectly polished and getting those A's that when I saw a C minus, it just like I absolutely crashed out, y'all. And the other thing is that like I've talked about before, but when I was a kid, I really struggled with like reading comprehension when taking tests and stuff like that. And so, like, one of the comments on that paper was definitely something about like you clearly didn't understand what the topic was, you like just didn't comprehend anything, which made the situation 10 times worse. And I just felt so bad because I knew all the chaos that I had gone through in the week before had affected, how I performed. This was probably like the only time I ever asked a teacher or a professor for, a do over or any kind of extension like that. And of course, the professor came back and said, that typical, like, well, if I let you redo it, then I'd have to let everybody redo it, which I completely understand, but that just left me even more devastated than like having to like fire that teacher the week before. I was gutted. But what I learned from this was just like how much I let, like one side of my life affect the other side of my life. And I really can like, keep that going if I really wanted to be successful in my PhD program, like I wanted to be. So I just really learned that, whatever was going on in my life, whatever hardships, whatever toils, whatever chaos I'm going through, at the end of the day, when I sit down to write the papers for my program, and instead of, letting it kind of make me feel like, okay, whatever, fine, I've written it, I've turned it in, like, screw everything in the world. Instead of getting myself down like that, I really started to focus on, making sure that the quality of my work and my PhD program really was maintained regardless of what was going on in my life. And so that week in my life, where I was just hating everything, I just wanted to quit everything, and I was feeling really, down and negative about myself. That really popped up a lot throughout the rest of my PhD program, and it kind of became like this anchor for me. Yeah, anytime I wanted to slack off or anytime I felt like I couldn't do it, it really, in a weird kind of way, was how I made it through my program. But it not only kind of like inspired, that bit of my life, but I still think about that concept as I go through life, like when I'm doing like my research or things like that. And maybe I'm having a rough day in some other area of my life. Now, I really have that mentality of not to let one downturn, that's really affected one part of my life affect all the good things that I have going on. So I want to know if you've ever felt like quitting your PhD program. Leave me a comment down below. Have you ever wanted to quit? Are you thinking about quitting right now? Are you feeling optimistic right now? I don't know. As I said, next week we're going to be hitting up part 2 of our literature review. And so if you didn't listen to part 1, go back and listen to that. And then if you also would like a a free How to Write Your Literature Review in 90 Days guide that is published for download on my website on the media page. And so my website is www.drmandyedits.com. And then if you need some help, if you need some editing, if you need some coaching, get a hold of me at either through my website or mandykf@gmail.com. That's mandiekf@gmail.com. Other than that, if you just want to see what else is going on in my life or you need some other tips about stuff, you can check out my link tree below and follow me on social media. And so now stop listening to me yap and go get some work done. I will talk to you later. See ya. Bye.